Here's 5 dark facts about Louisiana. Alright, number 1, Myrtle's Plantation is known as America's most haunted house. And the most famous story is of Chloe, an enslaved house servant. So according to the story, Chloe had her ear chopped off by her master because she was eavesdropping one night and was caught. So she started wearing a green turban to hide her ear, but she also wanted to get revenge. So she made a syrup using oleander leaves, which are extremely poisonous, and then baked a cake using that syrup. The wife and kids ended up eating the cake and ended up dying. After that, she was hanged and thrown into the Mississippi River, but people visiting say that they still see a ghostly figure wearing a green turban on the property. And apparently during the Civil War, the Union soldiers ransacked the plantation and 3 of them died inside. And apparently there was a giant blood stain by one of the doorways that just would not come up. That was the size of a body. And apparently the stairs are haunted as well, specifically stair number 17, because in 1871, a dude that was living there named William Winter was shot on the porch and then stumbled into his house and ended up making it to the 17th stair before passing away. Alright, number 2, the tragedy of Addie Hall. So this was Addie and her boyfriend Zach Bowen, who was 28 and a Army veteran. So they were a couple that started dating right before Katrina and decided to ride out the storm together. They had a pretty toxic relationship. She had bipolar disease and he had PTSD from being deployed in Iraq. They were both bartending, and after the storm they stayed to help the community kind of get back together, and they even made it into a few magazines and newspapers for helping like start little fires to cook food over and just help distribute food. So they were helping do nice things and things were okay for a bit. But after all of that and life got back to normal and bills started piling up and just the daily routine, they started having conflict again. Then apparently she found out that he was cheating on her, and the apartment that they were renting, she tried to get the lease in her name, and then when he found out, he lost it. He ends up strangling her, and then that night he slept with her and did other horrible things, and then decided that he needed to chop her up to try to get rid of her. So for 2 weeks that's what he worked on, but he also went out and just started partying, having a good time, and when people asked where she was, he said that she moved back to North Carolina. And some people were like, what? That's kind of crazy. And some believed him. So in order to try to get rid of evidence, he ends up trying to cook pieces of her, like in the oven and on the stove. But he wasn't able to finish, and he ends up taking his own life by jumping off the top of a hotel. And in his pocket, he had the keys to her apartment and also a note that read, "Go look in the oven," and basically everything that he did. And when they arrived to the apartment, everything that he said in the letter was true. Alright, number 3, the Thibodeau Massacre of 1887. So back in 1887, black sugarcane workers in Louisiana tried to unionize to get better pay. After weeks of striking, the white farmers decided they were pissed off and they're going to end this, so they decided to wake up early one morning, go to black neighborhoods, and whoever they suspected of striking, they just started shooting them. Even people that were surrendering or weren't even part of the strikes, they were targeting and taking out. And there was one they just let run down the road, and they said get as far as you can, but then the whole firing squad like took them out, and they threw the bodies in unmarked graves. Alright, number 4, the dark case of the Carter brothers. Back in 1932, 2 brothers were arrested for something straight out of a horror movie. So according to the story, a woman escaped an apartment in the French Quarter on Royal Street and ran to the police covered in blood. She told them that she had been kidnapped and that her captives were feeding on her blood every day and holding her prisoner along with several others in the apartment. And when they finally raided the apartment, they found 4 others in there strapped to chairs barely alive, and then 2 others that had been rolled up and weren't alive. The brothers were arrested and then later executed, but the weird thing is when they later opened up their tomb, their bodies were not there according to lore. Some people think that they're vampires and are still roaming the streets of the French Quarter. And number 5, the Algiers Point Massacre. So after Katrina, New Orleans was basically chaos, and we talk about that in my Katrina series, but there was a lot of people that decided that they could make their own militia. There was a group of white vigilantes that decided to make their own little militia and protect their neighborhood from looters, but essentially they just sat around shooting anyone that was black that walked near. They essentially shot 11, killing several, and none of them ever got charged. The police actually said, do what you gotta do and leave the bodies on the curb. That's wild. Now this is a very shortened version of it. If you guys want me to dive deeper into it, I definitely can, but we're out of time. Let me know what state I should do next.